This is Travis Wayne Goodsoe. I'm up late. I guess I could go watch SNL now, but if it's on, I'm assuming it is. I'm getting tired and I probably should go to bed, but I checked my Gmail and saw that one particular guy commented on my video, on one of my videos, in which he said that I needed to be physically abused. Shame on me for saying what I say in my videos. Oh yeah, I got some flowers today, which was kind of cool. And so I thought, yeah, I need to bring this up again. Mormons, you think I'm attacking you. You're not listening to my videos. It's the church that is being abusive. And you guys are being abusive when you defend the church's corruption, when you defend the church's abuse, when you defend the church's crimes and sins. But sins are pretty much crimes. You steal, that's a sin, yeah, but it's also a crime. Adultery, sin, yeah, oftentimes is not really considered a sin in our society, but regardless, polygamy is. You don't get it. You're not catching what I'm trying to do for you. I'm trying to rescue you. And all my videos are designed to expose the church because they've already done it. I'm not creating any of this. I'm not lying to you. I would like to do a video where I lie to you because I've got a really cool one. It would be like a fiction book, just told through a video, similar to the guy War of the Worlds. He gave a radio presentation of his book, and everybody tuned in and heard his book reading and thought it was an actual alien invasion, and the whole town freaked out. And so that's how his book became popular. And then I've got a story that I could do too, and it would be a complete lie, but I just don't have it in me to lie. I'm not a good liar. People can always tell when I'm lying. Even my mother could always tell when I'm lying, and even when it wasn't really a lie. It was that I just didn't want to tell her something, and she could always tell that I was withholding something from her. I can't do it. I don't have the skills necessary to effectively deceive people. And so I've learned in my life I can't do it because I'll get caught. People will know, and then punishments will be installed on me. And so I don't want to do that. So I've always been honest in my life. And then becoming a Boy Scout, that solidified it. And so that's how I got my eagle, by the way, is because I told the truth. When they were looking for me to tell them what they wanted to hear, they said, do you plan on continuing with the Scout program after getting your eagle? And I sat there and I thought about it. I didn't answer right away. And I envisioned going on to getting married and having boys and having the boys be involved in scouting, and I would have to take them scouting and go on the camp trips with them. That's how I saw. And then all of a sudden I get told by a voice in my head, no, this won't be your life. And I was like, what? What do you mean? And so I told them, I don't see myself continuing with the scouting program. And they said, okay, thank you, go out in the hall and we'll talk about it and we'll let you know what we decide. And who knows how long later, it was a long time sitting out in that hall. And eventually they come out and said, we've decided to give it to you. We weren't going to give it to you, but the woman in the group was the one who stood up for me. And they told me that she had said, or she said that we teach boys to be honest, and we expect them to be honest. And I was honest. And if we can't give somebody the Eagle Scout for being honest, what's the point of the organization in the first place? So that was the only reason why I was let in, is because the woman on the committee defended me because I was honest. and so, yeah, I can't lie to you guys in these videos. As much fun as it would be to entertain you, and as much fun as I get entertained when I find out things as I'm reading over them, but Mormons, you just don't get it. So when this Mormon says that I need to be physically abused and then says shame on me, I have to say something about it. He's been banned from my channel. That's clear enough. You can't do that. That's abuse. But I need to help Mormons understand again that just because you're in the church doesn't automatically make the church true. Because Catholics who are born in the Catholic Church, that's all they know. They're not going to convert to another church unless something that the Catholic Church does causes them to say, I don't want anything to do with this. I'm looking for somebody else who won't do this. And maybe it's the sex abuse that's been going on in Pennsylvania, for example, sex trafficking. That's the same reason why Mormons are leaving the Mormon church, because the church in the gospel topic essays said Joseph Smith had sex with a 14-year-old girl and married women, and I've already tried to show you guys that the church is lying still. But the church has come out and said they've lied to us. Not just you guys, but me. I was born and raised Mormon. And so the church has betrayed me too. They've lied to us. I spent my life trying to find out if Joseph Smith was correct with his translation abilities. And I did. It's not the way scholars think. It's not the way Mormons think. But I found the truth. I did actual scientific research and had to discover the origins of the alphabet for Paleo-Hebrew. I had to discover that the glyphs of Egyptian also need to be translated, not just the Egyptian text. The glyphs also need to be translated. I found that out independent. I didn't go into the study and say, hey, Joseph Smith is translating from the glyphs, therefore the glyphs need to be translated too, and I'm going to create whatever story I want from the Egyptian glyphs. No, that's not how it works. You have to be scientific, not Christian scientific, because you see on the news that they'll announce, oh, scientists have done a study where men can have chocolate every day, but women shouldn't have chocolate at all, but if they have to, once a week. Did they go to Hershey's for that study? Nope. If they went to Hershey's scientists for that study, Hershey's scientists would say, oh yeah, have as much chocolate as you want, won't cause any problems at all. That's what tobacco industries have been doing. The smooth flavor, and blah, blah, blah. And getting the Flintstones characters to smoke. And so, oh, that's a Flintstones character, I want to smoke. Here's a candy cigarette to prepare you for when you get older and you can smoke. You know, they're lying to you. And, and so I actually did the research, the scientific research. And it was because of Paleo-Hebrew. Because I figured out how to translate Paleo-Hebrew. And that had to be done by discovering the origins of the alphabet. And I found out, hey, William Foxwell Albright is saying that the characters represent these particular pictures from Proto-Sinaitic. But when I compare them with the Egyptian linear script, corresponds to different Egyptian glyph pictures. And that's how I made my discovery. And then I've also confirmed it by going to Paleo-Greek and finding out that the vocabulary is the same when it's corresponding with the same spelling. And then I went to Chinese. My Egyptian teacher, anthropology of Egyptian teacher, said there is no connection between Chinese, no collusion. And so I said, well, I'm going to confirm that then. And I found a book on ancient Chinese characters and how each stroke has individual picture representation. And yes, it's from Egyptian. And so in Egyptian or Chinese, the sun is a square with a dot in the middle. In Egyptian, it's a circle with a dot in the middle for the sun. That's the only difference. It's more line rather than curved, like Egyptian. And then Japanese, I think, has done some more curving from Chinese, original Chinese. And then I think Korean is more of the brick structure rather than curved. The original Chinese, the ancient Chinese, corresponded each stroke with the Egyptian equivalent. That's simple. That's what I was looking for to confirm if my anthropology of Egyptian teacher was correct, that there is no collusion. Yes, there is. Sorry. And so that's how I did my theory tests. And so that's how I do my research on church history. I don't just say, well, the church says this, therefore the church is telling the truth, therefore everybody else is wrong. No, that's not how you do research. You don't dismiss other evidence and documentation. You have to examine it. Not other people's hearsay. That's irrelevant. You've got to go to the primary source documents. And so that's why I did my polygamy video series. Joseph Smith is not a polygamist. The church is lying about having lied about it. Brigham Young, it's him. It's all him. And so Mormons, you can breathe easy, because the critics are going off of what the church is saying. Because the church is saying in their gospel topic essays, Joseph Smith was a polygamist. He married the 14-year-old girl that he had sex with. He married those married Mormon or married women. And no, none of that was true. They all came out as accusations against Joseph Smith after he died and after Brigham Young said that polygamy will now be practiced here in this Utah Valley, what has become the Utah Valley. 1853. That's when polygamy started. It did not start before. There was no angel that appeared to Joseph Smith in 1832 saying, practice polygamy now or you die. Because he didn't practice it then in 1832, did he? Oh, but he came out with Section 132 back then. He just didn't bring it out until 1843. And of course, Section 132 didn't come out in a Doctrine and Covenants until the year before Brigham Young died. And so, you gotta do your research, Mormons. It's okay to do the research. Yes, you're gonna find out Brigham Young's a bad guy and the church is no longer true after Joseph Smith was murdered. But give Joseph Smith some credit where credit is due. He was falsely accused of many things. He didn't translate the Book of Mormon by looking in a hat with rocks in it. That was just a stunt for Martin Harris. But yes, he did look for treasure that way, or at least he pretended to do it that way. He was taught that by his father, who had been in the New Israelites in Vermont. You gotta do the history research. And so, yes, is the Book of Mormon plagiarized? Yes. But it's more books than what critics are saying. It's like they took every book that was available during that time period and threw it all in. But are you just going to say, oh, well, it's a plagiarized book, therefore I'm not going to believe anything it says? Are you sure you want to do that? Because critics have done it. They say, oh, Book of Mormon's plagiarized? It's fake. Okay, bye. But Mormons, you've read the Book of Mormon, haven't you? You've heard the stories. Is there some value in it? Well, unfortunately, I'm experiencing Utah Mormons taking the bad examples from the Book of Mormon and likening those people to them. You know, from layman who says, I'm the birthright blessing son, I'm supposed to lead, and justifies killing Nephi, his younger brother, so that he can maintain power and authority over the group. Is anybody doing that at work? I deserve the raise. I'm going to destroy this other person's reputation and get them fired so that I will get the raise. Is that being honest in all your dealings? As the Temple Recommend interview question suggests? The church has come out and lied. They've confessed to lying. So what about their Temple Recommend interviews? They haven't been honest in all their dealings with us. They've confessed it. It's in the text on their website. The Gospel Topic Essays. So why aren't they being held accountable and being denied their Temple Recommend? For not being honest in all their dealings. And so, if you were to do your Book of Mormon research, you would find out. I've been talking for hours with this other person, and so my mouth is all and so if you did your research, you don't just learn Egyptian, because remember, the small plates were written in Egyptian. They were not written in Reformed Egyptian. They were written in Egyptian. Nephi says it. And then in Mosiah, I think it's chapter 1, verse 4, if I remember correctly. They say, you know, if it weren't for Lehi knowing Egyptian and passing that knowledge on to his children from generation to generation, we would not be able to read the plates. Egyptian. And so by saying that in the text and claiming that it's a legitimate text, guess how you do research? Oh, well, John Welsh figured it all out. It's Hebrew because there's chiasmus. No! What John Welsh discovered was not the Hebrew origins of the Book of Mormon. He found out the plagiarism of the Book of Mormon. You're supposed to study Egyptian and be able to find Egyptianisms throughout the Book of Mormon. And sorry, there aren't any. Though you could probably stretch some stories to illustrate that point. But for the most part, no. And so yeah, you got to learn Egyptian if it's an Egyptian record, as it says. And you have to do linguistic studies. You have to see not if the different characters that are speaking in the text use different manners of language. No. That's not how you do linguistic study. You need to see the linguistic pattern, but then make sure to test it against other books of the time period of when the book was published. It's published in 1830. So you need to look at books before 1830. That's how I found out that all the critics are incomplete in the number of books that are plagiarized in the Book of Mormon. And so, yes, Solomon Spaulding's book was plagiarized, and yes, a view of the Hebrews was understood in the text, not plagiarized, but understood. And what's the other popular one? That was probably it, those two. But that's how you do research, is finding out all the books of the time period. And so, yes, I found that there was Jewish mystical literature plagiarized in the Book of Mormon. Jewish mystical literature began with Alphabet Ben Sira, or it was around 600 or 800 AD. And it got more common among the Freemason organizations. And so, yes, you also need to find out about the family. What was the family doing when the Book of Mormon was supposedly being translated? And who were the characters? What was their lives all about? What were they doing before, during, and after? That's how you can recognize that Joseph Smith was putting on a show for Martin Harris, because Martin Harris was the leader in his community of the anti-Mason movement. Smith Sr. was a Freemason of the lodge there in Palmyra. Hiram Smith was also a Freemason of the lodge to the east of the Palmyra one. So if Joseph Smith comes from a Freemason family, and Martin Harris, who is the one who is transcribing what Joseph Smith tells him to write, and he's an anti-Freemason, do you start to get an understanding of something's off about the missing 116 pages that were given to Martin Harris? And why did they use Martin Harris? Because he was the money. He could publish the book for them if he sold his farm. Catching on? But there's more involved. But this is how you do research. You have to look at the whole picture. Don't just say, oh, plagiarism, bye, I'm out. You got to keep on going. Because then you learn about William Morgan. And once you learn about William Morgan and his disappearance and his claim that he was being paid by the Batavian press to write 2 books. One about the Lewis and Clark expedition finding the Mandan Indian tribe with Chief Great White, or Big White, I think it's Great White. And then the other one about the Illuminati infiltration of the Freemason, Scottish Rites Freemason organization to destroy America. A secret band to destroy America. And then after he disappears, the Book of Mormon then comes out. Did you know who was working for him in helping take the paper documents and putting them on copper plates for the print press at the Batavian print press? Oliver Cowdery. His father were his cousins to Lucy Mack's family. They all lived in Vermont. William Cowdery went to the New Israelites with Joseph Smith Sr. That's why Oliver Cowdery is said to have the gift of Aaron, which was not originally called the gift of Aaron. It was the rod of Aaron. Divining rod. The New Israelites. That's how Joseph Smith was a treasure seeker. It's from the New Israelites that his father learned. His father, Joseph Smith Sr., was called a master rodsman. And so if you don't know about William Morgan, and you just hear about, oh, Joseph Smith was into peepstones and other sorts of witchcraft, you're missing out. You know, if you just stick with the first thing that you find that you don't agree with, and you don't get the whole picture, you lose out. You're not going to get it. That's what the mistake that the church historians made, the September 6. D. Michael Quinn, great research on the particular items he found, but he didn't go to the whole picture to figure it all out. He just said, hey, rocks in a hat, church now wants me excommunicated. So, and so I get on here and I tell you Mormons, hey, the church has said they've lied to us. The church is corrupt. They don't have authority. Brigham Young, he was a horrible person. He didn't even have authority to be the president of the church. He changed it so that the future would be as he had it. There were others who formed their own churches after Joseph Smith died. That's also been kept from us. And then now, when people do find out about it, we're just told, oh yeah, well, they aren't the true branch offs. They thought they could run the church, but they weren't chosen by God like Brigham Young was, who was a racist, a sexist, a bigot, and a murderer, and blah, 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 and a rapist. Just because you were born and raised in the church does not make it God's church. You have to actually study. And now Oakes is now telling us, oh yeah, scientific truth is not true. You need to go to the Holy Ghost. And whatever the Holy Ghost tells you, as long as it's conforming to what we tell you it's supposed to tell you, that's the truth. And as a result, Mormons come up with their own doctrines, the Mormon myths. You know, then you get Saturday's Warrior. Oh, I know it's true. I feel it in every fiber of my being, and I testify to it. And then BYU won't sell Mountain Dew. And so it goes black market. Caffeine's not in the word of wisdom. But Mormons are creating laws for other Mormons to follow. Brigham Young was the cause of the word of wisdom as a commandment. Joseph Smith called it the word of wisdom. That's it. No commandment. It's just a good idea. Why? Because Emma was sick and tired of cleaning up after the men from their meetings. All the chewing of tobacco and missing the spit-urn. She had to clean that crap up. And she didn't want to do that anymore. You have to know the background. If you don't do the research, you're just going to live your life in a lie, in a bubble. And so when I tell you, hey, the church dealing with Russia, there's something wrong with that. There's something off. Because you don't do deals with Russia. It's the Russian mob. It's the Russian mafia. Putin took over the government. He's not a Russian. He's not a communist. He's his own person. He did not run on a party platform, as communists do. That's communism for you. It's a socialist republic, a party platform. The Communist Party is a redundancy of speech. And so, yes, there are certain smart people who recognize Democrats are communist and Republicans are Nazi fascists. And they can claim all they want that, oh, we want what's best for America. Those other party people don't. But you hear them, both sides. The Democrats accuse the Republicans of being fascist, and the Republicans accuse the Democrats of being communist or socialist. They're not really socialist, they're communist. A socialist republic is what the Democrats are, because they still want a Republican form of government, a socialist republic, communism. And both sides don't want anything to do with the Constitution. It's just in their own separate way. And so, yeah, I'm not going to get into that. But yeah, the Book of Mormon. it talks about Native American Indians and a white American Indian group. And a secret band called the Gadianton Band, who had secret handshakes, who had secret code words, secret signs that only their members knew about. And that they infiltrated society, got into positions of authority at the low levels of the judges, and rose up in power, tearing the Constitution of the Law of Mosiah. That's what the Constitution is compared to. That was the Constitution of the Nephites, the Law of Mosiah. He gave up the monarchy for a constitution. And judges were put in place to make sure that the Constitution was adhered to. See, this should open up a whole new world of understanding of the Book of Mormon for you, if you read through it and realize that it's encoded speech. Freemason encoded speech about the threat of to the United States. Thus, Martin Harris, as an anti-Mason, must have caught on to the initial 116 pages, that it was too much Freemason encoding, that he could identify it himself, and said, hey, wait a minute, I don't like this. This is too much Freemason stuff. We can't do Freemason stuff. That's an evil society. And so do they let Martin Harris in on the William Morgan thing? Nope. Did you know that William Morgan was directly connected with the Smiths? And his widowed, then remarried wife, where she lived in Nauvoo, across the street from Joseph Smith? How William Morgan was the first person baptized for the dead by Joseph Smith Sr. as proxy? You gotta do your research, Mormons. So yes, the Book of Mormon is plagiarism. But there's a message of vital importance to every American citizen. But it's too late. Joseph Smith died, and Brigham Young took over. And now we're living in it. That warning from 1830 has now come to pass. A king has been placed on the throne of America. And nobody can get rid of him, because he's replaced all the judges throughout the land with alt-right Republican thinkers. That's what they've been doing for those first 2 years in office. You thought the Republicans were doing nothing? Nope. They were filling the judgment seats with those who would protect the Republican Party. They'd already been gerrymandering the states so that a Republican would win in 2016, and they still needed more help because Trump was not the most desirable person. But now nobody wants to get rid of him. Everybody talks the talk. Oh, he's horrible. He's not a Democrat. And Republicans, I don't see a crime. Crime is not a crime. That's what Rudy Giuliani says now. And sacrificing their careers defending Trump. Chaffetz among the first. But Chaffetz went after the Federal Reserve. And then all of a sudden said, I'm quitting to take care of my family. And then he's no longer with his family anymore, I guess, but yeah, so he lied because apparently he was threatened out of office. because you don't go after the Federal Reserve. Doesn't matter if he's a congressman. But if you knew American history in connection with William Morgan and his officer who became president, Andrew Jackson, you would know that there was a central bank issue in America in those early years. In the 1812 war that Trump accused Canada of causing, the burning of the White House? No, that was because Congress stopped the central bank. We're not going to have the central bank anymore. Thanks, but bye. And so Nathan Rothschild paid for the British Army to come and attack America. So the Brits burnt the White House down, not Canadians, and paid for by Nathan Rothschild. Nathan Rothschild had joined the Freemason organization that the Illuminati had infiltrated to come to America to infiltrate the government here. But all of that's just conspiracy theory. They've changed the definitions of conspiracy and theory so that everybody can be fooled and deceived. You can't change definitions, but people do it all the time. And so being happy is now being sexually attracted to someone of your own sex. As an example. So we're at 40 minutes here, and we're at 11 o'clock here. And so I may not do it. I may go to sleep and then get to this video in the morning, hopefully. Because I'll be up till at least 12 if I were to upload or save this video and then upload it. And I'm tired. So Mormons, you're not understanding what I'm doing. All you see is that I'm attacking the church, that I'm the bad guy. You're not getting it. Even when I do a video about Plato's allegory of the cave, where it tells that the person who gets freed from his chains and sees the big picture of everything going around and why he had been lied to or deceived with what he thought was reality. And then he goes to tell the other people who are still chained and says, hey, what you're seeing is not reality. There's something else going on. And they attack them. They don't want to hear it because they know the truth. They know what's best. They know what's right and true. That's exactly what's happening to me. I've done the research. I've broken free from the chains. And how did that happen? Well, it's all thanks to Bishop Reed Hammond, who gave me the threat, saying don't publish the Book of Mormon as the official doctrine of the church. Because before that time, the church was true, and I was trying to help Mormons figure that out. And so Mormons were attacking me for telling them the true doctrine of the church from the Book of Mormon. You'd think that wouldn't happen, but it did. And so Bishop Hammond said, if you're going to keep doing this, don't bother coming to church. Why bother? And so I didn't go back to church because I was going to keep doing it. But during that same time period, I had done some study about the Carthage jail incident, where Joseph and Hiram were murdered. Because Bill Blunt, in this ward, he said, "Oh, I've been studying about the murder, and I wanted to know what you thought about it." So I said, "Oh, well, my third great grandfather was the one who gave Joseph Smith the gun." Church doesn't talk about that, though. Really? It's been in our family. We've all known it. It's my third great grandfather. It got passed down. We all know. But the church doesn't talk about it. They hadn't. Not until the book by Elder Oaks. And I went, "Oh, that's interesting. I need to find out about this." So I started working on a research of the Carthage jail. And so Bishop says, "Don't bother coming to church anymore." So I said, "Okay, now we're going to do a full history of the church and the coming forth of the Book of Mormon." So I published those books. They're just a listing. It's not a narrative story. But that's how I did my research. I made a timeline of when things happened when. Not just for the church, what the church says, the whole history, going all the way back to the New Israelites, even to the Illuminati. I included them in there too, because I needed to see, are they involved? Because as I go to one person, then I'd find out more information that I need to branch off into and do research on that. So like Joseph Smith, he has a father named Joseph Smith Sr. So I need to branch off and study Joseph Smith Sr. Joseph Smith Sr. is said to have gone to the New Israelite Church in Vermont. So I need to branch off and find out about the New Israelite Church. So on and so forth. And so those books are just a listing of the chronology of events. And I didn't title them correctly, and so it's not the big moneymaker. Most of the people still buy my slightly incorrectly titled. I didn't really know how to title it, and so the list of prophets' actions during each of their presidencies is what it is. It's just a listing of what they did during their presidency, and some had more than others, not just because they died within 9 months, such as Hunter. Yeah, it was an interesting study on the prophets, but I threw in Second Coming, and that caught Mormons' attention, and so that's my big seller. Others are 1s and 2s for the most part, and so yeah, Mormons are surprised, but some are happily surprised, and others are like, "No, I wanted the signs." And so I tell them, "Well, you're probably wanting this book of signs that I did that nobody's buying." But they don't go to that either. So yeah, if these are the last days, I had to do a research on the last days, which means studying the signs of the heavens. Because it's not just sun, moon, stars. John chapter 12, or Revelation chapter 12, gives us specific prophecy date signs. I've taken astronomy. I know what it means to say, hey, if you have the moon at the feet of the woman constellation, and she has a crown of 12 stars instead of her typical 9 stars, and the sun is in her constellation, and there's a planet that is in her womb for around a pregnancy period, and then comes out at a certain day during the time of this conjunction of other indicators, That's a specific date. And it depends on which calendar you use, but it's an astronomical set time, regardless of whatever calendar you use. And so the Catholics, of course, refuse to accept that because there's no need for a second coming because of corruption of the church. That's why. Because why should Jesus Christ come and restore the church? The church is perfect. Doesn't need to be restored. Therefore, they had to come up with a different interpretation for that passage. And that Revelations almost didn't make it in the New Testament. And so, people don't realize this because they don't do their history. There weren't just 4 Gospels. There were hundreds of Gospels. Only 4 got selected. Where's Peter? Isn't he the head of the church after Jesus died? If he was the head of the church, shouldn't his words take precedence over Paul? Especially over these other Gospels? There's a Gospel of Peter. Oh, that's why. Because there's not as much information in the Gospel of Peter. It's been damaged. Okay. But Peter's records over Paul? There's actually a guy on YouTube who's a part of his own church, and he's the minister of that church, and it's all about the Gospel of Paul. And I'm like, wait a minute, shouldn't it be the Gospel of Jesus? Why are you putting Paul above Jesus for your church? And I went to him because he criticizes the Mormon church all the time, using his Pauline religion. So, I don't get it. If he wants to create his own religion, he's free to do so, but he's doing it wrong to criticize the church with his beliefs. I have been born and raised Mormon. I know you. I know your thoughts. I know your understandings. I know your interpretations. I know your falsehoods. I've been a teacher for decades in the church. I've taught teachers how to teach. And I've seen and witnessed Mormon after Mormon after Mormon who do not know their doctrine, who do not know their scriptures. And they just create whatever they want. They hear something from some teacher or some prophet at conference and take it out of context, and that becomes their belief system. And that's why you guys attack me. You don't have a knowledge of anything, but now all of a sudden you know that I'm wrong. So, yes, that's why I did the video. Mormons, I can't remember the title of it, but yeah, you don't have a knowledge of the gospel, the doctrine, the theology, the ritual, the scriptures, and yet you go around telling people you're an expert because you know that they're wrong. You're not an expert. You've already admitted you don't know. I had a bishop, the Youngles Singles Ward, branch president technically. He had confessed while we were cleaning the church. I'm not like you intellectuals. I've never read the Book of Mormon. He was insulting me by insulting himself. This is unbelievable. Yes, I strive for mediocrity. So much for striving for perfection. And so, yes, because of his ignorance of the Book of Mormon and of Scripture, he was creating his own authoritative rules and laws for his branch. The bread for the sacrament had to always be white bread. So thus I did my white cracker video. Was for that experience. And so it's just unbelievable that Mormons think that they can just believe whatever they want, and as long as the church doesn't tell them, no, you can't believe that, you have to believe this way, because then you say, oh, okay, well, I'll conform, all right, but then you go back and do whatever you want anyway. And so you phase out what you don't like to hear from conference, and you only listen to what you want to hear and want to implement, or what you've already believed in and have been implementing. And so conference then is great and wonderful because they told you exactly what you wanted to hear, because you shut out everything else that you didn't want to hear. And so when Nelson took away the high priesthood from the elders, you missed that part because you didn't want to hear that. So you don't understand that you guys can't go to the celestial kingdom anymore because you have to be a high priest. I knew that as a kid because I'd read it in the Book of Mormon. In Alma, chapter 12. You have to be a high priest. I read it in the Book of Abraham. Abraham wanted to be a high priest. Doctrine and Covenants, section 76. Those who go to the celestial kingdom are those who are priests after the holy order of God. What's the holy order of God? The Melchizedek priesthood. So what's a priest of the Melchizedek priesthood? A high priest. You can't get there as an elder. That's not a high priest of the Melchizedek priesthood. That's an elder of the Melchizedek priesthood. Just like the Aaronic priesthood has deacon, teacher, priest, the high priesthood is also supposed to have ranking levels. There's supposed to be more. There used to be 70s. But the church stopped those. So we're getting to an hour here. So I want you Mormons to understand, I don't hate you. I hate corruption. I hate ignorance. I hate abuse. As long as you aren't doing that, I'm perfectly fine with you. I want to know about your lives. I care about you guys. I want equality for you. I want you out of the church that is blinding you to the truth that is awaiting for you if you just get loose of those chains that are binding you down, limiting your understanding. And so yes, there's still going to be Mormons who are going to put the thumbs down on this video. And this video, I may not title it correctly, and so there may not be as many interested in this video. So I'll have to try to figure out some shocking title to get you to come here, like the others that I've done about Nelson and the Pope. I'm not lying to you with the titles. I just have to word them in a manner that gets your attention, because that's how YouTube works. That's how they fooled you in the election for Trump. They stole your data and they used it against you in the form of advertising. Lies. That's what the church is doing. But they don't do it through that same method, but they do it through telling you what they want you to be. The good Mormon visits the sick, visits the lonely, pays a full tithing, is active in church attendance, is active in the community. Listen for conference when they talk about that. The good Mormon does this. And they may even say that you're already doing it. They may say, we appreciate the thoughts and prayers on our behalf. We appreciate your faithfulness. That's manipulation. Because they want you to be what they want you to be. And so they've figured out a way to say, hey, if we tell them what we want them to be, as if they are already being it, they'll do it. Because that's how psychiatrists did it, through the negative way. They say, you have a mental illness, over and over and over again. And then they say, we need to put you on drugs to help you with your problem. And then if you give in and say, I have a problem, I need help, they got you. Or if you don't, but you believe, and you start acting the way they tell you you are, like people keep saying, oh, you're a criminal. That's all you do. We don't trust you. We're not going to give you assistance because you're just a criminal. If you're not getting assistance, you're forced to be a criminal in order to survive. That's the utopian principle from Thomas More's book, Utopia. If you don't understand that concept, watch the movie Ever After with Drew Barrymore. It's a PG-13, I guess, movie, and so it's not R. and it illustrates the point, where she's talking to the prince about trying to free her servant that's been in the family forever, and the wicked stepmother sold him into slavery so that she can get money. And so yeah, and so Drew Barrymore has a line from Utopia that she teaches the prince about. Alright, so we're at over an hour now. So I hope you Mormons understand. Yes, I'm against the church. Because the church is bad. And if you're not going to do your research, if you're just going to trust whatever the church tells you to believe, you're going to be my enemy. Because you're going to attack me. You're going to threaten me with physical violence, as that guy did today. And you're going to blame me for what the church is doing. It makes no sense. Shame on me for exposing what the church is doing? Shame on me? Are you sure? I think you doth protest too much. Or projecting. And denial. Whatever. So, and most likely, most Mormons have shut me off. They've had enough, and they've given up, because it's way too long. We only want 5-minute things, that's all we can pay attention to. Some people I can understand, because they don't have an hour every day in their life. Sometimes several hours in their day, depending on how many videos I do. But other people, they try to keep up. There are those who are interested in what I have to say. And I know there are people hurting out there. I hear it on the comments. And I want to help. I can't help everybody all at once. But those who come for help, I will do whatever I can to help. If it's just knowledge on a subject, I'll do that. I'm concerned about one person that I was communicating with who met me through my website, I think, and was communicating with them on Gmail, and I haven't heard from her forever, so I'm concerned. You know, have I said something wrong? Have I done something wrong? You know, she asked questions, I gave her the answers, so I don't know. People just give up and stop communication, and so that's sad because I thought everything was fine and I had a new friendship. But yeah, I am interested in you guys, not just women. You know, guys can be interesting too, sort of, kind of. Not really, but because usually guys are a different method of communication. It's more of a bro code communication, so we don't need to communicate other than through the bro code. And women don't get that. And so with women, yeah, I'll sit and talk and discuss and listen, and because that's the way women are. I learned that through the first marriage. I was thrown right into the firing pan. Fire, right into the fire. The pit of hell. So, you know, the only reason why the marriage failed and why I call it the pit of hell is because she had no interest in keeping it going. She purposely sabotaged our marriage. And she started small, complaining here and complaining there, and then it escalated. And she started getting abusive. I was scalded by hot water because she wanted steaming hot water to clean the dishes. Well, I'm sorry, but steaming hot water scalds the skin. And she knew that. So that was just one example. Alright, so I can go on forever, but my mouth is dry, and I'm tired. So I'll upload this tomorrow. I'll have to, I don't know, yeah, I gotta figure out a title. So, alright. Good night, sleep tight, until the day is done. Da, 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 da. See, I didn't watch that show. There were other better shows on TV on the other channels. And so fortunately I was in a rich family that had multiple TVs.